Hi, and welcome to Lena's Needlecraft. How are you today? Okay, today we're going to talk about 15 hacks that I use in my crochet. And I hope that they'll be helpful to you too. Some of them you've probably seen before, and some might be new to you. Okay, hack number one is Kavit Emptor, buyer beware. Because see this yarn? How easy it breaks? You see this yarn? How easy it breaks. I had bought a bunch of sock yarn at a couple of good craft stores, and I was trying to knit with it, making socks, and it kept breaking. So I asked a friend of mine who owned a yarn shop, and she said it was bugs that got in the yarn. Makes it very weak, and so you have to beware. So I went to these craft stores again. They were famous ones, and I tried. I took a little yarn from the inside, pulled it out, and it broke real easy. So I showed the manager of both stores, and I said, this yarn is no good, for socks. Usually it's wool with a little nylon mixed in, and, sock yarn gets a little expensive. And I got a little bit of my money back, but not all. And I went back about a month later. I took my camera, and I was going to blow the whistle. But when I got inside, the yarn was fine. They had replaced it and got rid of the old yarn. So that was really good. I was happy they did it. But, you spend all the time knitting socks, and then they wear it one time and put holes in it. So, you just got to beware when you buy yarn. That's a big problem. People aren't aware of it. They just assume, well, yarn they buy is safe and good. So that's the first thing, my first hack. So there you go. So just, take a little piece from the end, try it. I even went in my stash afterwards and found a whole bunch of yarn that broke very easy, and I had to throw it out. So it broke my heart a little bit, but I'll get over it. Okay. Now, instead of chaining, hack number 2, instead of chaining your first stitch like you do, you usually do like 4 chains. This is a triple crochet. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, and then go into then you go into the second one. That's the normal way of doing it, according to most instructions. I think they'll change in the future, but right now that's the way they say to do it. A hack is that you can chain 1, turn it over, you go into the first chain, bring it up, do like a single, and then go into the chain again, bring it up, go through your chain again, and you can bring it up, and there you go. And that's a hack, and that gets rid of the big spaces you have. Like here's a space, you can see it, and here's a space, and it does that, so it's just something that you need to be aware of. Have you ever heard of a linking chain? You can link the chain next to you instead of doing a triple, like going on into the stitch, and bringing it through. You can actually go into the 2 diagonal stitches, and you can go into like right in that stitch from the previous stitch, and go in and go up, and go in and go up, and then you go into the chain, you bring it through, and that gets 4 on your hook, and then you go through 2, 2, 2. See, and that links your chains together. I didn't know if you were aware of that, but that's pretty neat. Okay, and also on hack number 2, a lot of people will do the single crochet. The chain 1, you do the chain 1, you turn it, and then just do your single crochet like that. See? And then you just go into the space. and that makes your sides a little straighter. these weren't done that way, but that makes your sides a little straighter, and just go ahead and, and that counts as your first stitch, is the first single crochet. Okay, hack number 3, a decrease. When you're doing a decrease, the hack for a decrease is, especially if you're doing a amigurumi, instead of doing it like where you just go in both and go up to 2, you go in just the first stitch, you just pick that one up, you pick the next one up, you bring it through, and then you do your chain stitch. And that makes it look more even. That's a hack, and let's go ahead and crochet. And as you can see, it blends right in, and you don't see it very, very, like you would if you did it the normal way. So that's a good hack. Normal is you go through, and you go through both stitches, and you do it, but that causes a little more of a vertical thing right there in the stitch, and it shows up more. So you want to do it as neat as possible, and so you just go through, up, and that just makes it really nice. Okay, that's hack number 3. Hack number 4 is, and what I believe in, which a lot of people don't even consider, is if you're pulling thread out of the center, I don't use thread when it's kinky, because thread is, you need to relax it first. You can pull it after a while and then get to the relaxed part. Or you can use a Swifter and roll it up into what they call a cake, roll it up, or hand roll it where you do it with your hands like this, but it's not kinky. It's, you make it long threads. But see, this is not very good for garments and things when it's all kinked up. It's, it just doesn't do very good, because yarn has each thread is twisted in the yarn, and then when you ply it, you twist more. It twists the opposite way. Like this is twisted this way. It's going around and around, but then when you ply the threads, you twist it this way, the opposite way. And, each thread has different characteristics, and it drapes differently. So I wouldn't put, crooked thread that's been, twisted from the center into a garment or a hat or something. Now, if you're making a wash rag or something, yeah, go ahead and use it. But, it's just me, and that's the way I am. Okay. So hack number 5 is, I put my thread in a big bowl, and I pull out several yards at a time, and then I use it. But I pull out enough, so I don't have to keep pulling out of it. I get lazy at times like everybody else, and I'll just, use it. But, I'll pull out a bunch, or I'll Swift it and then pull out a bunch. But, I'll pull out a bunch at once, and then I'll use it, And, it's just that's just the way I am. A yarn bow is nice, but you almost have to Swift your yarn or roll it in a ball to use a yarn ball. A yarn ball is pretty small, and sometimes it's just not good. It doesn't make sense. I love a yarn ball, and I have one, but I don't use it as much. Okay, hack number 6, markers. If you're chaining one, and then if you're chaining one and then you're doing your crochet in a stitch like that, it's better to use a marker in the stitch so that you don't put extra stitches, not in the chain stitch, but in the stitch itself as your first stitch. Otherwise, you'll end up, it's real easy to do extra stitches in your yarn or in your work. You might accidentally put one in that one, and at the end you might accidentally put one in that chain. So, I use markers if you're going to do it single crochet, and like you just do the chain one and then you put it in the stitch. So, they come in handy. Markers come in handy when you're doing continuous rounds, like here. You're doing a continuous round. You're not putting a slip stitch at the end of the row, to bring it up. You're just doing a continuous round like a spiral. So, you want to put a marker in the first stitch because sometimes you have to increase and decrease as you go. And it just keeps track of where the beginning of your roll is. All right? And, markers are good. These markers are good. Like if you're going to put your work down or you're on the go and you're putting your work down, you can, I like these kind of markers to put in my work and it won't pull out. I've used, or you can use light paper clips. I don't use the heavy ones. I don't like to stretch my material. Or in socks, I don't like to stretch my material. And, these kind of markers are good too. Okay. And, it's just, very easy. Put it in and then you can pull as tight as you want and it won't come out. And that's good too if you're on the go or lay your work down for any length of time. So, markers are handy. They're very handy. Okay, hack number 6. That's 6 markers. And number 7 is use a larger needle when you do a foundation stitch. A foundation stitch is usually tighter, and as you crochet in it, it'll bring your work down like this because it's pulling. So, I use a larger needle, and then you can use the same size needle that you're doing your work in and say, oh, I'll make looser foundation stitches, but you'll have 3 tight ones or 3 loose ones and 1 tight one. It's hard to keep your work even if you do it that way, especially if you're making a lot of stitches. So, I would just use a larger needle and then your work will lay nice and flat and it'll be better for you. So, that's just one thing I do. Okay, number 8, I can't help it. I make a copy of everything. And that's just the way I do it. And, I just do it. I make a copy of everything. I write all over my copy. And then I put my favorite patterns in a book. Like this, And I keep them in a book. And then if I need more copies to write on, I just get them out and make them. So, that's just the way I do it. I write all over my patterns. Sometimes I'll put I'll even do the rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I mark them off, put a check mark as I do the rows. I'm just a hands-on kind of person. You can put them in a lot of people suggest putting them in the sheet thing and then using a dry erase marker and they write on it. But I don't like that. I like to keep my pages clean and I just take a copy. And I mark them up too. I write everything, every little change. When I lay it down, I'll write right where I'm at, and I just do that. It's just me. And in my favorite book, I keep my crochet hooks, the millimeter size, the size of my crochet hooks, and, and also the Canadian size, English size, because a lot of times it'll say use a 3.5 millimeter. Well, I don't know what a 3.5 millimeter is in Americanized, so it's an E. So I know it's an E. So I keep this conversion chart also in my book. And I do these in gloves and hats, and I just do all kinds of different patterns in here. And as you can see, I've got 2 books, actually. This is my first book, but I've been doing this a long time. So, I've got 2 books of my patterns, favorite patterns. Sometimes I'll see a pattern I just can't stand to have a copy of, and it might be a pattern for a grandchild or something, and I'll make and I plan on doing it later on. But then I've got a copy machine too, and I know a lot of you don't. So that's just the way I am. Okay, hack number 9: always finish a row before anything else. If I'm doing a complicated row that has a lot of different patterns and instructions and stuff in it. A row, I'll tell my family, I'm going to be doing a row now. Don't talk to me. Don't do it. Even if the phone rings, I won't answer it. I'll go along until I finish the row. And, knitting's usually a little more complicated than crocheting. So I do it more with knitting than I do crocheting. Because crochet, sometimes you can get an easy pattern and, it doesn't matter if you put it down. But, I won't even do it. Of course, there's exceptions, like if the baby's crying or if the beans are burning or something like that. Yeah, I'll get up. But usually I'll finish a row, and then I tell my family I'm done with the row. Do they need anything? Or, or if they're hollering at me, Mom, I'll say, wait a minute, and I'll do the row, And then I just keep finishing the row. because, you know, I have to do it a row at a time. Otherwise, I'll forget where I'm at, you know. And I don't know how many people, how many of you have done that, but I do that. I'll forget where I'm at. Hack number 10, keep a notebook and take pictures of what you made. Or you could take pictures on your camera, put it on your pictures on your computer. That's really neat. I've made over 40 baby blankets, sewing, knitting, crocheting, you know, and I can't even remember them now. But I didn't start this until about 5 years ago. So, you know, it's good to look back over what you did if you want to do another one, you know, or like, for instance, I'll think, where'd that pattern go? You know, I want to do that one again. Where'd it go? You know, but it's a good reminder of what you've done, and you feel get a sense of accomplishment, you know. Okay, hack number 11. I usually have 3 projects that I do. And most of the people in my Fiber Arts Guild, and most of the people in my Fiber Arts Guild, they use bags they've made and bags they get. You know, you donate to a couple of places, and they'll send you bags in the mail. You know, like this bag, you know, and I'll have usually 3 projects. I'll have one that's got my serious project that I'm working on at the time, which is something I'm crocheting or something. And, you know, I'll put it in one bag. And then I have a small project, usually a little sewing thing or a little knitting thing or something. I'll keep in another bag that I take. And then I usually have a third bag that has that has a big project in it, but it's a no-brainer. Like that's going to be a sweater, but it's a no-brainer. And I like no-brainers for when you're tired and you just want to watch TV and just keep your hands busy. So, you know, no-brainers are good. I bought this as a master weaver, and I bought this bag from her. She made it. She does excellent work. Over a period of time, you'll start collecting things, bags and stuff, and this is beautiful. I just love this bag. And this is a bag I made myself, and you can see I've crocheted, hooked them together with a crochet stitch. That's knitting, that's crocheted, and then I wove the band. But, you know, you don't have to, you can just crochet like granny squares would make a beautiful bag, and then line it, you know. And a lot of this was leftover yarn. I had different things of it. And, you know, so, you know, you can do that. Make a bag your first. Now, hack number 12. On number 12, we're going to show how to do an invisible join on a circle. You might have seen this before. What you do is after you do your slip stitch, you just pull it out like that. And these are popular like if you're doing granny squares and you're gonna join a different color. So here's your slip. You did your slip stitch. Take a needle. You kind of bend, put your needle and push it tight like that. Press on it. Put your thread through. Grab a hold of it and pull it through. So that's a good way of threading a needle. There's other ways. You just find out what works for you. And okay, what you do is you go through these first 2 stitches. Not this stitch where it overlaps it. See how it overlaps where you did the slip stitch? Well, you take this and go through the ones before that, the needle, both stitches from the front. You go around. And then you come up and you go in the front of that stitch and you go behind. And see, that looks perfect. And then you go in the back and you want to, you know, get your material, your yarn. You go into the stitch like that. You kind of like, you go with the stitches, you go into the little single crochets. Usually it's a 3 times 3, like 3 clusters worth. And then you go down, maybe you go down 1. And you can like go back if you want to. You could go back and do a couple more and go backwards. And that will usually hold your stitch. If you're not sure, do it some more. Like you just kind of follow the line of your stitches so that it don't stick out. Now see? And then you can cut that off and you won't notice it. And that's how you do that. And you do the same with this here. You might go around a couple more times into the stitch and maybe up 1 or 2 or back, you know, just to tighten it real tight. And that's how you do that. It's called invisible join. All right. Hack number 13 is put rubber tips on your scissors. Or, I've reached in my bag many times and I've poked myself, or they've poked holes in the bags. And or you could use cuticle scissors too, like if you're going on a plane or something. Cuticle scissors are kind of a little difficult to work with, but they'll work. But, I like the tips that you put on knitting needles on these little scissors, and it seems to work really well. And I'll keep it in a little zippered pouch, usually my scissors and things that are little. That's hard to find it. That's floating around in a bag, Okay, and hack number 14 is I read the pattern thoroughly. And sometimes if you don't understand it, you sleep on it. You can sleep on it, think it through, do a little bit of sample of the stitch maybe. It's an unusual stitch, or, something. Of course, there was one pattern I couldn't figure out for the life of me, and I had to let the project go. That very rarely happens if you study on it and see if there's a new stitch in it and how it comes together. Okay? And that's what you got to do. Okay. And hack number 15 is every so often look at your entire project. Get out your tape measure and measure it. I've made a lot of baby dresses that were 0 to 3 months. And if you're doing an extra stitch in the side or putting extra stitches in it, before you know it, it'll be a 3 to 6 month size rather than a 0 to 3 month size. They seem to multiply as you go along. So far, usually at the end of every increase or decrease, it'll say how many stitches you should have in the pattern. And just make sure you have that many stitches. Sometimes you can repair it. Say you got an extra stitch like in the fourth row of the pattern, you got an extra stitch or two, you might be able to decrease and make it right in the 5th row. Sometimes you can fix it before you get too far along. So that's why you should read your pattern, read it every so often, try them on, and some things it has to be precise, like hat size, and like I say, garment size. If it's a wash rag or something, don't worry about it, But, garments, they're a different story altogether. Okay, that's my 15 hacks, and I hope you've enjoyed today. And, I'm going to do a second video on about 12 hacks that I use too. So, keep on crocheting, and good luck. This is Lena's Needlecrafts, and I'll be talking to you later. Bye-bye for now.